got enough clarity around it to make it important enough as to why you do it. So if you do need any extra help on that one, please let me know. All right, next one is focusing on the outcome and not the process, which links into exactly what we've just been talking about there, okay? Often we set a goal and then we drill into the habits of trying to achieve that goal, and we're always thinking about whether or not we're going to achieve the goal. Am I getting the result? Am I getting the result? Am I getting the result? Okay? And then, as we know, success is rarely linear. It's often going to be twists and turns and ups and downs and plateaus and things like that. So if we're only outcome focused, whenever we hit a dip, whenever we hit a plateau, what's going to happen? Going to give up, because it's like, oh, I'm not achieving the goal. I'm not achieving the outcome, so what's the point? And then you stop doing the habits. But that identity, that person that you want to be in 10 years from now, guess what they're doing? They're doing those habits irrespective, because it's just who they are. And that's the mindset that we need to start to foster around habits and behaviors and goals, is if we're actually in alignment with our identity, that person in the future just does that because it feels good to do that, because it's a part of who they are as that person, irrespective of the goal or the outcome of the goal. Does that make sense? So let's delve into that. So you've got kind of, let's say, 3 layers in that behavior change when you're trying to form a habit. So you've got the outcome, which is what you get. So I am drinking more water because I want to have more energy. So the outcome is the energy. The process is the drinking of water. And then the identity is what we've been talking about. That's who you are at your core, yeah? So we need to focus on the process of being who we want to become, and then let the result be the byproduct. And this is probably the mantra of therapy, okay? You've probably heard Emma bang on about it loads, me bang on about it loads, but this is why we don't do before and after scans in challenges. Even if your goal is weight loss, we're a gym, of course we're here to help people with their physical goals if they've got physical goals. But the reason why we don't drill down and obsess over that with you guys is because that often isn't the core reason. And if we only focus on that, then if you're not getting the result at this small fraction in time on that journey, then you're going to, and you start to give up, right? So instead, we focus on helping you to move in a way that you enjoy, move in a way that aligns with who you are, move in a way that aligns with your identity, okay? So whether it's movement, whether it's nutrition, whatever your goals are today, this next piece here is just a reiteration on why that last step was really important, which is every action that you take, every time you successfully go, yes, I did the thing, I cleared that next piece of the house out, the living room's now done, or I turned up and I exercised in the morning instead of sleeping in and then missing exercise at night time because of work, and you chose exercise then work, or exercise with work, that is a vote up for the type of person that you want to become. And every time you don't do those habits, what essentially you're saying to yourself is, I don't want to be that person. That is not the person I want to be, because the only difference between who I am now and the person I want to be 10 years from now is consistently layering these 1% habits. And the more you layer them and the more you actually succeed with them, the more you're actually telling yourself on a kind of self-confidence level, the more you're telling yourself, oh, I am that person. I can be that person. I'm moving towards being that person, which is a way more empowering conversation. Does that make sense? So every time you tick one of those habits, it's an upvote for you to say, to tell your body, to tell your brain, yeah, I can be that person. I am that person. I'm moving towards that person 10 years from now. And it's just 1% efforts. Stacking those 1% up between now and then. That's the only thing that's stopping you from being that person. Cool? So let's just switch away from focusing on the results, because, and that's the funny thing, right? The results end up happening anyway. The amount of people that we've had at therapy say to us, oh, I've lost 20 kilograms, but it's amazing. I've not even been thinking about losing weight since I've been here. That's why we do what we do, because it's like, yeah, of course you can lose weight. Of course you can build muscle. Of course you can achieve whatever these little goals are along the way. But if we just take your focus away from solely obsessing on the outcome and get you worrying about the process and the identity a little bit more and focusing on those things, you'll achieve it by default. But whether you achieve that or not doesn't change the identity of who you want to become. So you want to be doing those actions anyway. Even if you didn't achieve any result for 10 years, you still want to be that person, right? So why would you not do the habits that that person would do? Does that make sense? Cool. That's a big one. It's where a lot of places go, like people go wrong with when it's setting goals, is they just focus on the goal, which I understand because we're setting the goal, right? But it's just, it's counterintuitive. So, next one, big section we're going to spend some time on is often in order to set new habits and achieve our goals, there is a conflicting habit that's in the way that we need to get rid of first. Okay? So, for, let's say, me, it would have been, I'll break it down as we go through because I'll put it onto the next slide, but for me, it would have been, I want to exercise because I've not been exercising, but work is my highest value, so I'm working more. So I've set this habit of working instead of moving, okay? And I now need to, the old way or the other way of looking at it is, all right, I need to break the habit. I need to stop doing the habit of working and start exercising. And it's like, well, when you actually understand how habits work, it's very, very difficult to break a habit or stop doing something. Because if you think back to the analogy that we spoke about before, that highway has already been built. So the neural pathways in your brain are already set to make that behavior really, really easy. Remember what we said about habits? They're automatic. They happen subconsciously. So for you to go, right, I'm just going to stop. After you've built a highway over 3 years of doing that same repeated behavior over and over again, and all of a sudden you're going to try and stop it, it's like, good luck with that. It's going to be really hard to break that, okay? Who's ever tried to stop going onto social media? Show of hands. Is it easy? Was it as easy as just, oh yeah, I just put my phone down and that was it? No, because what happens? Before you know it, you've picked the phone up, that little red notification thing's gone off, and before you know it, you're 20 minutes into a doom scroll and you're like, oh fuck, how did that happen? Like, how did I get there? You're already on the highway. You're already gone. All right, so we're not trying to break habits. We actually we need to try and replace the habit, okay? Or replace the routine, which we'll go into now. So the way habits work, and this is a framework that was created by a guy called Charles Duhigg. So if you want to read the book on this, the book is called The Habit Loop by Charles Duhigg. Really good book. And he essentially says that habits have 3 major sections to them. So you've got the cue, the routine, and the reward, okay? So the cue would be, for example, break time at work. I'll tell you a really funny story about this. So when I used to be a trainer and assessor at the Australian Institute of Fitness, every day in the afternoon, for most of the days, I'd be in the office marking assignments. And it'd get to about 2 o'clock and it'd be break time, and me and all the other trainers in the office that were marking assignments that day, we'd all look at the time, it'd be like 2 o'clock, and we'd all go, coffee? And it's like, yep, coffee. And we get up, we walk down the road to the coffee shop, and the coffee shop had this game that ran between 2 and 3, which was, there was a deck of cards on the side, and you choose red or black, and then they cut the cards and pull it over, and if you guess it right, you got a free coffee. Just as a little side tangent on this, what that does to your dopamine, and like doubling down on drilling rewards, it was genius from them, whether they realized it or not. They were just like addicting people to coffee through that process. Definitely got me onto it as well. So, cue is 2 o'clock. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Let's go. Routine, we walk down to the coffee shop. We get a coffee. Reward is what? Maybe the promise of a free coffee. The coffee, but deeper, what's behind the coffee? Dopamine when I'm winning. Yeah, so maybe it's the thrill of winning that keeps me going back. The social, the coffee. What's the glaringly obvious one? Why am I going down to get a coffee? What's the reward that it's giving me? Yeah, get the caffeine hit because why? I'm tired and I need more energy. Yeah? So that's what we're thinking on a conscious level is going on. Okay? So what happens over time is that there's the jungle, yeah, we've got all the vines and things, and that cue hits, and we do the routine, and then we get a reward. And if it's rewarding enough, we'll get a flood of dopamine and serotonin. And then what it does is it reaffirms that that was a good thing to do. You should do more of it. Chop, 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 chop. You start layering out your road. Monday to Friday, 2 o'clock, coffee, coffee, coffee. Sometimes a win, yay, free coffee. That becomes a highway very quickly, okay? Let's say then one day Kyle goes, right, I'm giving up coffee. That's it. I've had enough. I'm not going to that coffee shop anymore with you guys. I'm done. So day one, I'm sitting there, and I'm not going for a coffee anymore because I said I'd give up on coffee. What starts to happen? Craving. So Q is what? 2 o'clock. Everyone else in the office gets up and goes out. Kyle stays sat down. What then kicks in? That in between here and here. Craving. Dopamine is saying, go and chase your reward. So the dopamine loop for craving. So a lot of people think dopamine is just the reward hormone. It's actually not just a reward hormone. It plays a role in reward, but it actually is the thing that gives you the drive to chase the reward, gives you the craving to chase it. So think about it like this. 50,000 years ago, we've got our loincloths on, club on the back, and we're scouring around and we're looking for food, and we hunted all day and we could find no food, and we're really tired. We've got no energy left at the end of the day, no reward. We're like really sad about it. And then you look up in the tree and there's like one mango in the tree. And you've had mango before, so you know that means energy and survival. So what does your body do? Floods your brain with dopamine to give you the craving to go and do the action. So it's the thing that gives you the drive to do the thing. So then you climb the tree, get your mango, bang, happy days, reward, we're back. Yeah? So that's how dopamine works on 2 levels, one on the crave and then one on the reward. And it's super powerful at driving you to put those habits in play. So naturally what happens is I don't go to the coffee shop, everyone else goes, and I'm sitting there now craving it hardcore. It's like, oh, fuck, I really want coffee. I'm so tired and got a headache now because I've not been at caffeine for a few days. And it's all very miserable. When the easier thing you do is go and get the reward, right? So understanding habit loops requires a couple of things. One, rather than trying to break it completely, like that cue is coming in no matter what. Unless I stop working at that job, that cue is coming at 2 o'clock, which is going to trigger the craving. So rather than trying to just break it and not do it at all, what I need to do is change the perception or change the reward so that, keep the reward the same, but change the routine. So swap the habit out for something else so I get the same reward. Does that make sense? So rather than sitting there with my hands sitting on my hands, like, I'm not going to get up, I'm not going to move, I'm just going to stay here, and it's really hard and probably going to fail, which I did multiple times. Knowing what you now know about this, we need to keep the cue. The cue is going to be the same. You're not going to change the cue. And the reward, you are not going to change the reward. What we need to do is swap the middle part out. So if you were coaching me as a client, and you're saying, Kyle, I'm going to help you with this 2 o'clock coffee addiction thing you've got going on, what could we do in this habit loop here to help not break the habit, but swap it out so I still get the same reward? Yeah. Matcha? Yeah, swap it out. But the first and most important question comes back to awareness around what is the reward? What am I actually getting? Do I know unless I experiment? Probably not. Like I think I want caffeine, but somebody said it before, the reward might be what? It might not be for caffeine. It might be social connection. It might be we've been working on assignments, marking assignments for a couple of hours, and in actual fact, it's the fact that it's all of my colleagues and friends in work getting up, and for 10 minutes, we just get to walk down the road and have a laugh and have a chat and get some fresh air. So the reward might be socialization. What else might the reward be? Just getting out of the building. The reward might be a brain break. It might be for more energy. So could I get more energy in a better way if I'm not trying to get it artificially, let's say from caffeine? Go for a run, go for a walk, get out in nature, go for a walk with the people. So this is what I did. So funnily enough, I was actually reading that book at the time this was playing out. So I was like, I'm going to actually experiment with this. So I changed it to, instead of sitting there on my own and not going with them, I was like, what if I actually go with them and just don't buy anything? Just, I'm aware, you know, I've got an element of free will. I don't have to buy the coffee. So instead of staying back, I actually was like, right, 2 o'clock, coffee, yep, we're all going. And I'd walk down the road with them. They'd buy a coffee and I'd walk back with them. And I'd sit there with awareness and presence and be like, right, how do I feel right now? Do I have more energy? Do I still have that craving? Has the craving gone? And in actual fact, the craving had gone because it was more for me about actually having a bit of time to throw banter and have a bit of a laugh. Does that make sense to everyone? So instead of trying to like go against that subconscious highway that you've built, like, because that is you're going to lose that game more times than you win. We've got to look at habit loops from a place of how can we identify and become aware of what the cue is? Because if we could become aware of this, then we're not going to fall into that trap of like we do when we go, I'm going to stop social media. And then before you know it, you're like scrolling, you're like, oh crap, how did I get here? If you know the cue, then you can be aware and have an element of control. So step 1, become aware of the cue. Step 2, trial the reward, like have a think about what the reward could be and get a few different ideas down. And then step 3 is you trial different routines. So you try different things that you're going to replace that habit with to see if that provides you with the reward that it is you're looking for. And if that kind of satisfies the craving, then you know you're onto a winner. Does that make sense to everyone? Everyone following that? Cool? So same thing there. The cue might be break time at work. The routine is you scroll social media. The reward is it's a bit of novelty away from work. It's like low, it's easy, novelty. You know, how many times have you said to yourself, I watch Netflix and I scroll social media just to switch the brain off? Who's used that? Who's said that before? And then when you actually think about it, do you feel recharged from scrolling social media? You feel more drained. But yet we go back to it because we're thinking, oh, but this is my switch off time where I recharge. But in actual fact, the reward is probably just some easy novel stimulus that isn't work. That's probably what the reward is, and that's what you're searching for, is novel stimulus. That's just really easy to connect with. That's just low intensity brain stuff. You've just been working really hard, so now I'm just gonna get some novelty. That's probably what that is. Does that make sense? It's not to recharge the brain. So if that's what it is, so if it is novel stimulus, could you get novel stimulus in a different way? Or if it is energy in a brain break, could you get energy in a brain break in a different way? That's what we need to do here rather than trying to fight against what's already there. Because as we know with social media scrolling, you lose a lot, okay? So we're gonna go through this now. We're actually gonna layer it together. So the golden rule there is so you keep the cue and reward the same and you focus on merging the new habit into the routine rather than trying to break the old habit, yeah? That's the golden rule in that. Cool? And then, oh, where's it gone? And then this is kind of the process I'm going to take you through now as to how we make these new habit loops. So this is taken from a book called Atomic Habits. If anybody's read that one, it's really, really good, well worth a read. But there's 4 essentially steps that we're going to work through to kind of either A, get rid of replace the old ones, or B, reinforce the new ones. So we've already spoken to number 1, but 1 is make it obvious. So you need to bring awareness to the cue and the trigger. Because if you're not aware of the cue and the trigger, then you're just going to keep falling into the subconscious pattern. So that's just taking some time out to be like, right, what is going on right now? Why do I keep doing the social media scrolling? When is it happening? Is it a time of day? Is it when, I don't know, like a certain time in work, or what is going on in my environment at that time? So really just step through the process of what that is, okay? Second thing, and the reason why I put down habit misconceptions here is we need to make it attractive. If we're trying to set a new habit, we actually need to turn it from an I have to into I want to. It's like it's attractive enough where it's like, oh, I really want to do that thing. Because remember, you've got cue, craving, routine, reward. You should want to crave the new habit. So it's almost like you're trying to hack yourself into flooding yourself with dopamine to crave the new habit. And why I've said that's a misconception is because whenever it comes to kind of like setting goals and achieving things, I think we're in a point in the world now where like it's cool on social media to be like, you've got to overcome adversity and everything needs to be a challenge and it should be hard and to achieve your goals is hard. When if you look at any of the literature around like goal setting and habit formation, everything says, make it easy. Like, why are you making it hard? Like, it's already so easy to do the habit that you're trying to get rid of. Why are you then trying to make it really hard on yourself to put a new thing in place? Like, make it attractive. Make it enjoyable. This is literally the ethos of therapy, which is you exercise because it feels good. It's not exercise, it's an experience. This is why we put so much time and attention into changing the lights and the smell of Connect when we're burning the incense and the sage and the music and the smoothie bar and the cold towels, and we're doing all that stuff because what it does is it tells you, it's like, oh, I'm going to go to therapy. That's an enjoyable thing. Like, I want to go to therapy, not I have to go. And how many people like in this room now would say like, it's an enjoyable experience, right? Like, you actually enjoy turning up here. It's not by accident. Like, we've purposely done that, not to hack your brain, kind of, but we've done that on purpose because this is our vision. Our vision is to change the feeling of fitness, because right now the fitness industry says exercise is punishment. Exercise is hard. Do it to burn the guilt off from the weekend. Whereas we're like, no, exercise is fun. Exercise can be enjoyable. Turn up with and meet people and have a great experience, because then your dopamine loop goes, oh, I actually crave it. I actually want to turn up. I want to go, which is great for your habits. Yeah? So make it attractive. Easy. There's two things to this. One, we need to make the new habit easy enough to do, because you're chopping through vines, and make the old one that you need to get rid of inconvenient. Because the problem about that highway is it's just easy to get on and drive down, right? So you've got to put like roadworks in to make it inconvenient, and it breaks that subconscious kind of autonomous pattern. So make the old habit inconvenient. This is where like those really good apps on your phone, where you can actually like put a timer on and it doesn't let you access social media. That makes it inconvenient. It's like you're locked out. You automatically, you pick the phone up, you press the button. Oh, it didn't work. Pattern interrupt. Inconvenient. Roadblock on the highway. Now what do I do? Oh, I feel lost. Like, what do I do? What do I do with this? Oh, I said I'd meditate. All right, let's go and try and meditate. How can I make meditate easy? Well, it's already on my iPhone. I've already got an app. So instead of pressing that app, I press this app. Let's go. Does that make sense? And now all of a sudden, you use this road less. You're chopping through this one. That starts to clear up. This one starts to grow the weeds over time. Yeah? And then finally, which kind of links to attractive, make it satisfying. And why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be that you achieve it, you do the habit, and you're like, oh, that felt so good. Dopamine hit, serotonin hit. That felt so good to do that thing. I feel really good about myself. It aligns with who I am. You know, whatever it is, like add something into the experience that makes you feel good. That's what we do here, right? You know, there's a reason why we make the showers nice and put luxury products in there. It's because you do a workout, you go in there, there's a nice towel there, there's luxury products, you have a shower, it smells really good. It's like, oh, I'm creating this routine again where it's like, oh, I turn up to therapy and it's just nice, like I work out, and then it's enjoyable afterwards. I feel good afterwards. The smoothie kind of does that as well. Now, really important disclaimer on that. We are not saying you reward yourself with food for exercise, because that would be a bad kind of thing to fall into. But what we are saying is, if you enjoy the smoothie and you enjoy the experience, that I work out, I get a nourishing smoothie afterwards, I have a shower, it's like, oh, how good does this feel? How easy is it to follow a habit like that? Versus, oh, I've got to get up and it's going to be really hard, but you know, you've got to grind to be successful and, you know, insert whatever positive meme here. It's the complete opposite of actually what the research is saying as to what we need to do to create habits, okay? So let's do that. Let's work through that process together. One more thing before we do that, I'll just finish the last point and then we'll get there. But it's just a final point that I really want to drill home, which is, and something we really need to move away from, which is guilting ourselves into action. And that's the last kind of point on why habits fail. And something that, again, we see a lot of in the fitness industry that we're really passionate about changing. I'm sure you've heard Emma talk about this all the time as well. This is why we have positive cueing in the studios. You'll never hear us say, it's time to burn off your Easter calories and whatever else it is people say these days to try and motivate you into action. And the reason for that is because guilt and shame around not achieving something actually drives you to do more of the thing that you're trying not to do. How's that for madness in our brain? All right, so we've got this guilt loop which says, let's say you're trying to give up chocolate. And then one day you cave and you eat the chocolate. And then for the next 10 minutes, you're just giving yourself shit. You're just like, you are useless. I can't believe you caved again. You've got no willpower. Like, you're just hammering yourself. Like, you know, I feel like a slob, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So you hit yourself with self-criticism. You feel shame. You have that negative self-talk. You ruminate on the decision. And then what do you do next? I'm never doing that again. That's it. No more chocolate. I said I was off. I'm done. So then you really restrict yourself and you deprive yourself. And then what happens? What happens to the cravings? Intensifies. So restriction leads to increased craving and desire, and then you're likely given an indulge again, and then you go back round the loop. Anybody experienced that before? Yeah? So that's the dark side of the loop, right? That's what we're calling the guilt loop. And this is why, again, it is really important. This is why we are so passionate about it. Our therapy is in terms of not shaming people into move, not using the negative reasons as to, oh, you drank on the weekend, so now you need to come and, you know, burn off your sins through exercise, because you're just setting up a negative relationship with exercise, and B, you're just going to keep reinforcing the old habits. Okay? I saw there's been some really stupid things got circulated on social media recently, and there's one thing that popped up about some guy talking about obesity and saying, oh, we need to bring bullying back because people need a hard line on being obese because it's just choices, and people should just know better, and we should bring shame back. And it's like, if you read any of the literature and anything to do with why we gain weight, obesity, it is like the worst thing you could be doing is trying to shame anyone into action. You're only going to reinforce anything that anyone's trying to change. You're only going to reinforce the behavior that they're trying to get rid of. Like, there's just some of the most ridiculous things that circulate out there that are just actually causing more harm than good, under the guise of I'm trying to be motivational or trying to, whatever. So really important, guys, that we just, let's move away from the guilt and actually let's use the strategies that we're talking about today to say, hey, like, does this align with me? What can I do to change some of these behaviors? Kind of build some awareness around what the cues are, what the rewards are, and just give yourself grace in terms of, like, it's a trial and error game, right? The more you try, the more you learn, and we'll talk about resilience later on. The more you gain from the experience, and the more you can kind of use that to keep building through life. It's a much better way of looking at it than just trying to guilt yourself into action, because it just doesn't work, okay? So this is it. We're going to do it. So what I want you to do, team, we're going to bring it all together now. So I want you to pick one habit that we're going to focus on. This is the thing that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to. Like, I'll support you guys with this. You can chat to each other about it in the room as well. But I want one habit related to that goal that we're going to focus on. Okay, and we're going to work through that process that I've just taken you through around setting that habit loop and maybe interrupting the old habit loop as well. Okay, do we all have one in mind? Yeah? So 2 things. 1, what is your new habit? And 2, what is the old habit that probably needs to be replaced? Because I'm assuming that there's going to be one in there. If you bring in a new one in, there's probably something else that we're going to be taking out. Cool? We got that? All right. That's why we do it.
Yeah. And the cost time is set, right? And you can't change that. You have to go. You have to show up.
Yeah.
And choose to show up for that. So for me, it's like when you set the bedtime routine of like, okay, if I sleep now, I'll get 8 hours of sleep. Then I'll show up to therapy. So, but beyond that, it's actually also I get to show up to therapy and feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I'm awake enough to get the energy as well.
Yeah.
So it's like the experience of the therapy class actually
Is the attraction.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like, my thing now on that Tuesday when I run all the time, it totally is the attractiveness of, I feel so good after that run that I know when I come back in here at night time, I'm just going to be on. Like, I'm not dragging myself around. I'm feeling really good. So, like, the attractiveness of knowing that I'm going to come back to work with energy is more than enough motivation for me to put trainers on and get out the door. It's actually mind-blowing how much of a difference it's made. just making that link to what it's doing for my mental health rather than I'm doing it to get fitter or whatever else. Yeah? Have we all got something down for attractiveness on the goal, on the habit? Cool? All right. So next one, making it easy. So 2 things in this. One, how are we making the new one easy? How are we making the old habit harder to implement? So making it more inconvenient. Let's do that. So write that one down as well. So ways to reduce barriers to performing that new habit. So for Cassie, it's like, what are the barriers that are in the way right now? Obviously, it's the ease of putting on Netflix. So one thing we need to do is make Netflix and social media super inconvenient to do. That's the first thing. And then getting in bed, like if there's any barriers around that, what are the barriers? Like how do you make that really easy to do? I feel like for that one, it's actually just getting rid of the barriers and you'd be kind of like, well, I've got nothing else to do, so I'll go to bed. Yeah? That phone app's a really good one. And you'll hate it at first. But you'll be like, I want to get onto it. Oh, what's it called? I had it on recently. I'll get it for you. I'll send it to you. Because it doesn't let you get around it either. Like some of them have like a really easy way of turning it off, whereas this one, it's like super long-winded to be able to go in and like change the settings and turn it off. You need to make it inconvenient because like the dopamine is strong. Like if it's really easy, like you'll just find a way to turn it off and then before you know it, you're scrolling again. So you need to make it hard. That's where it could be like you leave your phone in your bag when you get home from work and the bag goes in another room and you'll shut that door and it's like it's in a different room and then every time you subconsciously go to grab your phone, it's like, oh, it's not there. Where is it? Oh, it's in the other room. Oh, it's just a pattern interrupt. Yeah? Any other examples that we've put into play?
Even just like moving the app away, like from where it's usually.
Yeah, I've done that one. Yeah. It actually does help. Hey, like I've thrown it on the back page. Yeah, I do that. Turn that little red light button off as well, a little notification button. You can do that in your settings. So you don't see the 1s and 2s popping up next to it because that's just that's a cue. That's literally what that is. It's a trigger cue to go, let's go. Let's scroll.
It's like similar as well with social media. So like if you're trying to like, I mean, for me, if it's trying to not work like at 8 p.m. at night, it's like turning off emails, making sure that it's not
Yeah.
accessible, although that's hard.
Do you know what? I don't usually I usually help people come to the wrong conclusion, but I'll throw in on this one. On your modem, you can set a time where it turns the internet off, unless you hotspot. If you've got like a wired in like router, you can actually set a timer on it where it turns the internet off, and then that way, if you're mid work, the internet will turn off, and it's like, oh, I can't access anything. Like super inconvenient. Then you have to go in if you want to and try and change it, and so even things like that. Like honestly, guys, like don't half-ass the strategy around this because like don't underestimate how powerful dopamine is and just subconscious patterns. Like you've got to really, really pattern interrupt it. Like put something in that's actually going to make it inconvenient. Yeah? Not just I'm just going to put my phone on lock. It's like, lol, you'll be open in 2 seconds. Scroll it away. Cool? And then satisfying. So what do you get? What reward are you going to give yourself for doing it? What's going to make it feel super awesome for doing the habit? And what are you going to do when you clean a bit of stuff away?
I might like move all my exercise equipment out there and
Oh, yeah.
have like a little bit of a home little, meditation.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I haven't got a car, so I'm thinking I've got a big, beautiful double garage, so I might just even put some plants in there or
Oh, great.
turn it into a little space or something,
Love that.
It's got a little courtyard off it, I could do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the moment, it's just like 3 hours of Kmart, It's
Yeah.
like boxes to the roof. It's horrifying.
So what I'd say is that could be the big goal, right? That's what you're working towards. That is that beautiful place. I'd say like for now, if your habit is I'm going to work on one aisle of Kmart, it's like when you complete that aisle of Kmart, what reward do you get? Like what can you give yourself that actually makes it feel?
Heaps of things for other people, but I never do things for myself. So what I might do is I might take it to the charity shops. Because I know the lady across the road and I'll just say to her, look, I'm going to bring you a lot of stuff. I'll bring you 2 boxes a day and I will just ferry it over there. Because it's good stuff. It's nothing.
Yeah.
I've already gone through it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Got it down to 3 aisles.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm just going to probably just bury it over there. And like I said, if I'm thinking somebody needs something, like I know I will do stuff for other people, but for
Yeah.
me, I could be on fire and I'll be like, oh, later, you know.
I'm with you on that one, Ange. Like, one of my biggest things that's helped me recently is training with Emily, because I will easily push my exercise or whatever appointment back for work because I'll always prioritize work, but I don't like letting other people down. So I actually hack myself in that way by making sure I train with someone, because I don't want to let them down, because I see that as just an equal value as work is like showing up for other people. So I just know that about myself.
Yeah.
So I'll just train with people, and then that way I'm super accountable. Yeah.
That
Right.
speaks to me. 'Cause I'm
Yeah.
the same. I know I'm 100% I let other people.
Yeah. Whereas that's a beautiful reward as well. Like, if you like giving, the fact that you know that it's going to a really nice place is a really powerful reward to drive why you should be cleaning those things up. Yeah, that's great.
People probably need them. Like, you know, I look at their toys. I mean, they're good toys. They're like, you know, spotlessly clean. You know,
Yeah.
some of them still in boxes. And I think if I go and give, there's probably kids out there that need that. See, and that makes me want to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if I, you know, if I just look at it, I go, oh, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is what we've got to do, right? We've literally just got to hack ourselves like that. It's like, find our triggers, find our emotions, find the things that make us feel good, and then hack those loops to make us do the new thing. Yeah. Cool. Do we all feel like we've got a bit of a strategy down? Have we all learned something new? Do we all feel like we've got a bit of a plan? We're not walking out here confused. Yeah? So just one habit that we're going to try and put in. So by the end of this now, you should have a habit that you're going to put in, and you know where the cue is. You put the new habit in, you make the old habit really inconvenient, and then you observe the reward and you see if it works. And if it doesn't work and you're still getting the craving, then maybe the habit that you put in wasn't the thing that was giving you the reward, or it wasn't the reward you were looking for, so you might want to change it up, yeah? But just start there, one habit, and let's just hack away at that and just try and create a bit of an inroad on that, and then from there, once you've got it, we can layer it, yeah? Easy. Awesome, team. Last little bit and then we'll wrap. I won't spend too much time on this, but just really quickly, the reason why we've put all that work in on that other stuff is because this doesn't last long at all. And as much as social media would have you believe that it's all about willpower and you just need to be grittier and blah, 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 this stuff lasts in very short amounts. So you'll find you get about 200 to 300 impulses a day in terms of what's testing your willpower, and we cave to about 70% of them. All right? And when we don't cave, we're using willpower, but we only actually have that in a finite reserve. It actually works like a muscle. So you can train willpower to have more of it, just like you can train your muscles, but when you use too much of it, you burn it out, okay? So just a couple of little tips. You've got more willpower in the morning than you do at nighttime because you've made less decisions, so you'll have less decisional fatigue. Environment plays a role, so if you've got low blood sugar, your willpower's shit. So, you've probably heard that thing before of like, don't go to the supermarket on an empty stomach because you'll just buy all sorts of things and whatever else. But it's the same with willpower. It's like if your blood sugar's low, like your ability to just like hold off is going to be low as well. Your willpower will drop, yeah? So willpower is essentially sacrificing the now for the gain in the future. Has anybody seen the marshmallow test with the kids? No one's seen that marshmallow test? Please Google it. It's hilarious. It's the best thing ever. So it's a psychological study that was done years and years and years ago that was testing self-control and willpower. And they put a load of kids in a room. And the test was, there's a marshmallow in front of the kids. And the adult goes, if you leave the marshmallow, I'm going to go out the room and I'm going to bring back 2 marshmallows. But if you eat that marshmallow, you only get that 1. But if you hold while I go and get the other marshmallows, I'll give you 2 when you return. And it's just a camera on the kids. It is hilarious, first of all. Like just watching these, there's like one kid that's like squirming and like licks the marshmallow a little bit and then starts having a little nibble. And then the other kid's like, if you eat it, you're not going to get another one. And the other kid's just sitting there really staunch. Like, but a couple of things it highlights. One, genetics do play a role. Like we don't all have the same baseline willpower. Some people will have more reserve than others. 2, our interests are different, which therefore affects our willpower. So like if I have a natural interest in exercise, it's less willpower to exercise. Whereas if I've really got no interest in exercise whatsoever, it's really hard to do. You know, one of the most amazing things, I was chatting to you guys about this the other day, one of the most amazing things I've seen, that probably the best thing that I've seen get the world moving was Pokemon Go. Do you remember when that happened? Pokemon Go. There has never been an exercise intervention in the world, no gym, no exercise program that has had the world moving at that level before. Everyone was out in the streets running around, nearly getting hit by cars to chase imaginary Pokemon on a virtual reality thing. Like, it was wild. Yeah? Why? Because it interested them. Back to what we were saying before, it was easy, it was appealing, it was satisfying, it was all of the things. It wasn't movement. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't exercise, but it was disguised. But it was just interesting enough. So your natural interests and your natural levels of willpower will play a role in whether or not that thing's going to be harder to do or resist against. So just bear that in mind as well. But this stuff matters. So sleep, stress, your blood sugar levels. So the more you're looking after yourself, the more you'll be able to resist things along the way as well. All right. So that's just a little side tangent on that stuff. And then the last one I want to say really quickly is just on resilience. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You can read this on the blog. But right now it might be like, yes, I've got Kyle's plan. It sounds really good. I'm going to go out there. I've got my things to set my new habits, and life's going to be perfect from here onwards. It's not true, of course. Like, shit gets in the way. Life happens. You're going to fail sometimes. It's inevitable. Resilience is essentially your ability to bounce back from hardship, your ability to bounce back from failure, okay? And while I'll let you take pictures of that and read that, I've got a blog on that. I suppose the thing that I just want to close on, team, is, like, you will fail, life will kick in, you'll set a habit, you'll chop some of those vines away, you'll achieve some great things, and you might fall off again, and a few of those vines will grow back. And that's essentially just the journey of life and the journey of you finding out who you are and becoming more of the identity of who you want to be. And if we can just actually attack our goals and our habits with that mindset, we'll be in it for the long haul, right? Rather than trying to achieve these quick fixes and these large shifts in small periods of time. I think it's just a lifelong journey of taking action, having awareness of what happens when you take action, what works, what doesn't work, where are the pitfalls, and then having the resilience and adaptability to go, right, I failed. What did I learn from that experience? And if I go back to that again, what would I do differently? Okay? So hopefully with the habit loop and the questions and some of the frameworks I've given you today, just use it, guys. Like, come back to the workbook, come back to the things that we've been talking about. And every time you have a little hiccup or a little trip, just go back to it and go, right, what is important to me? Does this align with my identity? What can I change in that routine? What can I do to make it easier? What can I do to make the old thing more inconvenient? And just keep reworking it and reworking it and reworking it. And over time, those little 1%ers will just layer up and layer up and layer up. And before you know it, you start to become the person that you want to be, like, at your core, yeah? And that's what I put there. The real reason habits matter is not for the results that they create. They'll come as a byproduct, as we've said, but because they slowly change your beliefs about who you are, and in time, reshape your identity. The more times you hit the habit, the more upvotes you give yourself to say, I am becoming that person, this is who I am. And that's way more powerful than, oh, I didn't lose a kilogram this week, or, I didn't drink that water this week, so my energy was a bit lower. It's like, those things will ebb and flow, but if we can just keep coming back to who am I at my core, and how can I keep moving towards that, we'll actually achieve our goals as a consequence. Cool? Awesome, team. Thank you. Good stuff. And guys, with any of this, as always, we've got plenty more stuff we can cover. So if you do have any topic interest that you want us to go through, I know we've had some feedback in the feedback form about different topics, but feel free to throw us an email at that email address with any other talks that you want. It won't just be me. We can get outside people in as well. You're probably bored of listening to me all the time. But yeah, let us know. Happy to do more stuff. I've got a few more topics of my own that I'll have planned throughout the year as well. Does this time work, Saturday? Looking at the feedback form, Saturday and Sunday seem to be the days that most people were saying they'd go for. So yeah, keep an eye out in the calendar and we'll keep putting more stuff on for you guys. And if you want to catch up on any of this stuff, I'm always around. So if you've kind of got questions or things, loops that aren't closed and you want to just have 5 minutes, grab me at reception. Always happy to chat about this stuff, yeah? Cool. Thanks, team.